incredible piece of what? Oh, we're recording. Cool. This is an incredible artwork from a newly activated solidarity economy artist, Robin Bean Crane. And I'll be using a lot of their slides actually, which is a great example of why we need artists in the solidarity economy. I used to do this presentation and it was good, but once artists start getting, really hit to this stuff, they're like, you know what, we can actually make work that is way more accessible to people and can make people understand and artists understand what we're up against. And so I just wanted to shout out Robin and Ebony from Cooperative Journal Media. And some of the slides you'll be seeing is directly, their work after learning about solidarity economy. And so this is my lightweight pitch to you all after this panel of, what will you create? What will you do to support this work as you're learning about post-capitalist movements like solidarity economy? Cool. So solidarity economy, essentially, if you take nothing away from this presentation, it's about collective ownership, or we like to say stewardship, and democratic governance. So it's basically who owns and who decides in your everyday needs in your life around your work, your housing, your money. So if there's nothing else that you take away from this, it's about who owns and who controls. And solidarity economy is around collective ownership and democratic governance. I'm sure you've heard a lot of the word solidarity in the last few years, but the word derives from the French word solidarité, which means the communion of interest and mutual responsibility. So I'm sure you've been hearing a lot in different union movements around solidarity, and I think it's important to actually understand the root of the words, as well as economy, which comes from the Greek word meaning home and also meaning law or custom. Again, who owns, who stewards, and who controls. And when we put those things together, we build political, cultural, and economic power. As we kind of went through in the prompt, a lot of this is inherent in our bodies. Like we know what it feels to do these practices. And when we talk about solidarity economy, we like to bring it back to our peoples, indigenous folks have always understood interdependence and that relationships are essential to our survival or our thrival, as Cooperative Journal Media likes to say, survival and our thriving, right? And as a definition, just because sometimes folks really like to know where it comes from, the term started to be used in the 1930s when workers were organizing around this idea of economía solidaria between various worker collectives during the Spanish Civil War. Then the term spread throughout Europe, Colombia, Chile, and Brazil in the 80s and 90s. As people were looking for ways to build a different economy. And so again, as more and more artists are learning about this stuff, they're making dope visuals to like break it down because it could be so dense sometimes, right? But like instead of the machine, it's like what about the spirit and prioritizing the spirit rather than just commodifying everything, gifts. How do we think about like sharing? Rather than competition, we think about cooperation as a priority in this framework. Rather than being separated, it's about interdependence. So that's kind of the nitty-gritty definition for those that are interested. And again, shout out to the artists making incredible work to help us understand this stuff. Really, in its core, solidarity economy is an ancestral practice. I came to this work working in the music business throughout my 20s, working mostly with Black and Brown artists, and just experienced how exploitative the economy was for these artists. And it wasn't until I worked at NEC, it took me quite a while to understand solidarity economy, about a year or two, because of all the jargon. We didn't have as many artists making this kind of propaganda to get folks to understand. But as I started working at NEC and learning about examples around the United States of people doing these practices, I became way more confident in knowing that this is in our inheritance. If you were a working class or Black or brown person, this is in our ancestral line of people practicing these alternatives, these ways of being that are not based in extraction and all the things that we know capitalism is about. And so I think it's important as you're hearing and you're seeing all these examples, because it's the economy, it's large, it's really hard to sometimes take in. I think if nothing else, you understand that this is an ancestral practice, and this is solidarity economy really is a way of institutionalizing mutual aid. And so I'm going to kind of go through, and it's going to be a little bit of information of all these different kind of institutions that embody solidarity economy. But again, I want to shout out Ebony and Robin, who made this amazing graphic, as solidarity economy as ancestral. And also, I was in your seats if you're new to solidarity economy 6 years ago. I didn't know any of this stuff. So I'm welcoming you into this. And it's okay if you walk away like, that was a lot, this is unrealistic, or you have your doubts. Those are real too. But I'm really, our hope here is to welcome you into this post-capitalist solidarity economy movement that is happening, that is real, and that artists are leading. And so again, solidarity economy practices are as old as human civilization. It's essentially an economic development framework that weaves together many strategies that aim to put people and planet ahead of profits. I also welcome chat energy that helps us. I'm all about the chat energy. We will stop and answer any questions in the chat if you have them. The core principle of solidarity economy is community control of the economy. So of our workplaces, of the land, of financial institutions, of our governments. And it is rooted in participatory democracy, cooperation, solidarity, and respect for the earth. Again, I kind of went through the history there of how this framework came about. Another amazing way of thinking about it from movement academic, Dr. Stacy Sutton at the University of Chicago, who's also a board member at the New Economy Coalition, said, "The solidarity economy movement is not a new movement. It has historical roots in Latin America, and in the United States, it builds off the legacy of the Black liberation movement." So again, it might sound new to you because we're swimming in capitalism, we're swimming in individualism, we're swimming in this oppression, but there were always people fighting this fight. And it also does have a connection to Black power movements in the United States. And I can illustrate that here. During the abolitionist movement, African Americans shared resources for freedom, healthcare, elder care, education, burial, investment in co-op ventures. There were always Black-led communes and banks and ways for folks to help each other with mutual aid networks to meet their basic needs. Farms. Again, this was always present in these histories. Moving on to the civil rights era, I'm sure folks have heard about the Young Lords, the People's Breakfast Program, Black Panthers as well. Fannie Lou Hamer is someone we admire greatly around agricultural cooperatives in the South. And in the 21st century, as I mentioned, there is organizing happening in the US. It is still small. We are here to invite you into this organizing. The US Solidarity Economy Network formed in 2007 and was created to connect individuals, organizations, and projects to strengthen the solidarity economy. Now into 2012, where I work, the New Economy Coalition, the US Solidarity Economy is a member of our coalition. So there is a movement of movements that is building and growing, and there's opportunities for you to plug in with that at the end of this presentation. You've probably maybe seen some of these terms, just transition, even democratic socialism. I like this slide because people are like, another term, I've heard of all these things. What does this have to do with the other? I'm not saying that all these things mean the same thing. What I'm saying is that they're cousins and we're all trying to go in the same direction. And we all do have the same kind of enemy in a lot of ways. But generally these kind of movements are moving in the same directions. Like your own cousins, you might have some disagreements. You might have you might share some different DNA. And there are different arguments that are going on in the different tendencies. But if you've heard of any of these terms, you've definitely been familiarized with solidarity economy and practices. So yeah, welcome to the restorative, regenerative, cooperative, circular, democratic, new, next, local, living, loving, sharing, caring, decolonized, decentralized, degentrified, eco-socialist, Solidarity economy. And let me tell you, as a communications person, this is not my favorite aspect of this, but this is where we are in history. So sometimes we make memes in our frustration of all these terms, like this Spider-Man one here. Uh, um, yes, thanks for letting me perform that. So, like I said earlier, you probably practice solidarity economy. Like I know some of you folks are involved in mutual aid wherever you are. Um, Anytime someone mentioned a savings pool with their friends and family, clothing swaps, childcare support, we kind of talked about all these things. Attending events like this, right? And like tweeting about it and saying, I learned so much about solidarity economy at hashtag AMC 2022. That would totally be a form of solidarity economy if you did that. Not saying you should do that. Maybe you should do that. No. The point is that you have practiced solidarity economy and you are a part of this. You maybe weren't familiar with these networks. This slide kind of shows you again, it's the economy, it's everything in our lives, right? These are some solidarity economy forms, in land and housing, food, education, kind of all the things that we need to survive, governance, finance. So you can imagine within NEC, there's tons of different projects around all of these different kinds of institutions, from worker-owned cooperatives to intentional communities, to for artists and culture workers, right? Community-owned sports clubs, those are a thing. Artists and freelancer cooperatives, etc. I like to show this to give kind of a big picture zoom out of how solidarity economy shows up in the economy every day. Cool. Oh, whoops. Good one. Currently, in this moment, as solidarity economy is strengthening in the US, there has been a group of solidarity economy leaders that are working on actually putting principles through a cooperative process of how to actually name what are the principles of solidarity economy, because maybe some of you have heard of a grocery cooperative that is super white and isn't about like cheap food and isn't about access to the things people need. All of these forms that I just showed you can be co-opted in some ways and can be, not liberatory. And so I think it's important to talk about principles as this movement is growing, of how important it is to agree and have an understanding that you can't just have a worker co-op that's exploiting people and say that that's cooperative or solidarity economy. So I like to put this out there to folks that are new to this world of like, oh, well, I'm familiar with the Land O'Lakes, which is a farming cooperative that still hires, farm workers at a very low rate. There are still complex nuances and struggles happening within solidarity economy to make sure that they're liberatory and make sure that they are positive and really about making people's lives better, not worse. And so if you're interested, you can check out solidarityeconomyprinciples.org. But these principles include shared governance, autonomy, that they're non-extractive, non-exploitative, etc. Cool. So what roles can artists play in the solidarity economy? I was going to see if we can take a break, but I think we're a little behind schedule, so we'll keep it moving. We do not need to wait for the revolution because solidarity economy practices already exist all around us today. Our task is to make these practices visible and to grow and connect them. I like to start this part out and show artists this because, I can show you all day all the different institutions that exist within solidarity economy, but where artists are really central is in helping these practices become visible and helping to grow and connect them by actually participating in these solidarity economy institutions. And that is part of a great primer by Emily Kawano, who is definitely a movement academic in this world. And so what are the roles that artists can play in this movement? From a process perspective, how can we collaborate on our work and own our work and get our needs met in line with our principles? And then also, how do we create work that invites people and their practices into paradigms beyond capitalism? So it's not only enough to make the art and create these visionary pieces that will inspire people, but it's also about how we as artists actually participate in our economy and get our work done, spread, distributed, and our needs met. And this piece is by also Cooperative Journal Media. Um, After they took a workshop that we did, they broke it down like this, which again, I can't stress enough how important it is for artists to be making visuals like this. And here's some other examples. Again, Caroline Woolard, who's here on the panel today. This particular piece of propaganda on the left really changed my life when I was in very new to solidarity economy. There wasn't a lot of artwork that I could access at that time that really broke it down. It just was so clear, right? Like, I don't have a boss. I'm a worker in a cooperative business. I don't have a landlord. I'm a member of a land trust or an intentional community. I don't pay for school. I participate in self-organized school and demand free education. I don't hoard my stuff. I take part in tool shares, barter clubs, and clothing swaps. I don't buy food that kills. I'm a member of a food co-op, CSA, and community garden. And I don't let my bank profit off of me. I joined a credit union, so my money stays in the community. And on the right, another visual of like, what is the day in the life of a solidarity economy, right? In a neighborhood, you can see the worker-owned cafe here. You can see the community radio station and the land trust. It just, besides just a table of me telling you solidarity economy, what it looks like in our economy, you can actually feel it, taste it, breathe it. And that is so integral as this work is reaching more and more people. Another example is a project that New Economy Coalition did with the Climate Justice Alliance called Creative Wildfire, where, it was a pandemic right before the Delta variant, and everybody was just going to go back to normal, like everything was fine to begin with. And we decided to put out a manifesto, which is, some of it is here. This is not a time to return to normal. And we decided to experiment to give the artists a generous stipend and some popular education around solidarity economy and climate justice. And these were the 19 projects, I believe, 14 projects, I believe, and some of the artwork that they created that you can see is super inspiring. And again, try to make real what we're talking about when we say solidarity economy. And you can check all this out at creativewildfire.org and find all these artists. I will say from joining this work 6 years ago, there's so many more artists that are getting, I feel, ignited around this work. On the left is an example of a mural at a credit union, which is a much better banking institution than a regular corporate bank. Here's an example of it's a streaming platform. It's like Spotify, but it's actually owned by the listeners and the artists. It's called Resonate. So I love this kind of intervention of like how we need to support artist control. Some other examples of kind of some works. Imagine this is an Instagram carousel of solidarity economy art I'm taking you through. On the right is some artwork of a worker co-op assembly in New York City. We're not going to win at solidarity economy if we don't have artists. Whoops, what happened here? Here we go. Here's some more, a work from Resource Generation. There's more than enough to go around. Wealth for everyone. Just some eye candy after all that economy talk. Yeah, I love this quote, rather than believing that the economy is a monolithic entity which cannot be altered, I aim to co-create equitable systems that privilege communal well-being over personal gain. And I think, we're going to be seeing more and more artists coming into this work because they're just not being served right now by the current model. These are also some examples of art making in the solidarity economy. And again, we will be sharing this So what does it look like to collaborate more, right? A creative, cooperative, collectives. I'm sure a lot of you are part of collectives or are aware of some, a group of people working together to achieve a common goal, um, protecting each other, right? Right now, there's a union of musicians and allied workers that's protesting Spotify and their really low royalty rate. They've actually showed up at the Spotify offices around the world and have been pushing the conversation. Um, Sharing, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with bartering, or artist guilds. When it comes to funding, participatory budgeting, which is a process where the community decides how to spend part of a public budget or an organization's budget. These are all examples of how we see solidarity economy showing up in art making. And another way that I like to think about it, which we're still workshopping, right, is, what is the short-term work and the ongoing work that's happening right now to fight the bad? As we know right now, everything going on with the Supreme Court, there's a real need to fight in the reality of the material right now, and to resist. And I'm sure a lot of you are doing this, of shining a light, of organizing other workers, of grassroots fundraising, right, for abortion funds, all the things we need to do right now to resist. But what solidarity economy offers is not just the resisting and being against, but what are we trying to build? And this work is a little bit more long-term that I just went over, right? Around work and labor, housing and policy. And these are some of the forms that is how we build the new in the long term. And on the right here is kind of like a simplified framework around just transition, which is a framework in the climate justice movement. We need to build the new, stop the bad, change the rules, move the money, change the story, and build a movement of movements. And so quickly, Caroline and I and Marina wrote a report for the National Fundraiser community, just really defining for funders how they can make real investments into artists who are participating in the solidarity economy. And I got some DMs from some of you who read it, so shout out to you. It is a little bit long. There is a 4-minute video at Art.coop that you can check out. I think we won't play it here for the sake of time. But really, it's a kind of I would say, a Bible of case studies of how artists, we're really making the case that artists are not just on the periphery to be kind of used to beautify the protests, but really are central in this economic justice organizing. And there's tons of examples of this, which you can go to the report and see, go to the website. We have a whole directory. What we'll be building out in the future is people can submit their projects so we can start to map what are all these examples happening so that we can see each other, so that we can know this is real, and that this is growing. I will skip the video, you can check it out. And again, from Cooperative Journal, I think these are some great solidarity economy principles for artists. And you should also check out, they are doing a panel on Saturday, which includes some of the creative wildfire artists about what is the role of artists in resisting and building. So I definitely encourage folks to, check that out as well, because it'll kind of be focused more on actually the art making and joining movements for resisting and building. But I love this, right? Like relationships over transaction, cooperation over competition, accountability and reflection, right? Sometimes we're always moving so fast, even in our own work. Shifting culture with practice, right? Democratizing education, and abundance, not scarcity. So I think these are really, really helpful as artists are thinking about where they fit solidarity economy in their practice. Yeah, I'm getting to the end here. I think this is a really important point by a cultural organizer in Mississippi, Carlton Turner, who we interviewed for the report, that this work, when done with integrity, it takes time. There's no quick way to get it done. It can't be microwaved. Alternate Roots has been at it for 40 plus years. The results of asking and interrogating racism, Southern life, organizational structure, funding for artists, contracts, what does it mean to partner? These questions are real. And if you've only done a year of work, lean on the organizations that have done the work and let them lead. Yes, Ashe. even for us at Art.coop, we've been doing this for about a year and a half now. And whenever I read that quote, it's really humbling and grounding to be reminded that, people have been at this for decades and this is generations long work. Quickly, I'm going to go into some case studies that the folks from Cooperative Journal Media kind of make tangible how artists are meeting their basic needs in the solidarity economy right now. So with housing, for example, maybe you've heard of a housing cooperative. This is an example of one in Philly, the Green Street Artist Co-op. And if you go to Cooperative Journal Media, they have little audio stories and podcasts. Again, an incredible way that artists are making this stuff tangible for everyday people. There are stories, there are these inspiring examples. Food co-ops in majority Black neighborhoods, like in St. Louis, unions like the Freelancers Union, wellness, like the Cooperative Residency in the Catskills. And there are tons of these examples, both at the Art.coop website and also at the Cooperative Journal Media. Collective study, which is so crucial in this moment as we're all unlearning these systems and relearning our ancestral ways of being. Universal basic income, which Yerba Buena is about to talk about their example in San Francisco. And, culture and play. There's the O Plus Festival, I don't know if folks have heard of, which is artists and musicians exchange art making and performances for wellness services. So again, this kind of example of bartering. One case study I wanted to call to folks' attention, and there's a lot in the report, but the East Bay Permanent Real Estate Cooperative is in Oakland, and they are democratically run and led by people of color, and they're taking land off of the speculative market, especially in fastly gentrifying Oakland. So maybe some of you are finding yourself in a city that is rapidly gentrifying, and they are taking housing back into community ownership. And so on the left here is Esther's Orbit Room, a black jazz and blues club that was under threatened. It was going to get it was going to be taken down as Oakland is fastly gentrifying, and they just were able to take it into community ownership. And on the right here, you can see plans for this whole district in Oakland to be a Black arts cultural district that really puts cooperative businesses at its forefront and centers artists. And so I highly, highly recommend checking out EB-Prec. They're just one example of solidarity economy and arts in practice. And it's been years and years of work, but it's been amazing to see the fruits of their labor. And so I highly recommend checking them out. So that's a lot of talking from me. I'm going to pass it to Christian, who's going to talk about some of the guaranteed basic income stuff that's going on in the Bay Area.
Sure. Thank you, Nati, for that wonderful introduction. So yeah, at Yerba Buena Center for the Arts, we've been working with guaranteed income for a little while now. We started out with a program, which you can see here. It's called SFGPA, San Francisco Guaranteed Income Pilot for Artists. And what it is, it's essentially, in the arts space, we're so used to, people writing grants and trying to sort of justify why you as an artist deserve money. And at YBCA, we decided that we're going to do away with all that. You as an artist, as a practitioner, as a culture bearer, as someone who is the lifeblood of your community, you deserve money for you. You can put it toward whatever it is that you need, whether that's getting a new program going, whether that's, paying rent, because rent is not cheap out here. I can tell you that. And so, just having that extra cash to put to your needs. This is about trusting artists and trusting community members to know what to do with the money, to know what to achieve their needs. So we had this first iteration, you can see right here, it's called the SF Guaranteed Income Pilot for Artists. So that was rolled out a little while ago. And we got, some community feedback about the process, and there were some conversations around accountability and, how to, how we could better serve our community. And so we took that community feedback, and with that, we convened the Creative Communities Coalition, which is a group of 6 separate community organizations within the city of San Francisco representing different communities. And I'm going to drop a link in here to an article that just came out to give you all a little bit more background on this new second phase. And we convened these 6 groups, and each of these community organizations chose 10 artists kind of within their community, within their space, to provide the funds to. And if you take a look at the article, folks have been using that money for a lot of different things. We have one poet, Javier. He's using this money to take some time off from work to work with youth and to build up his community out in the Bayview district, which I think is really admirable. And he even will testify that this is he wouldn't be able to do that without this support. So just that in and of itself, I think, is really powerful, that someone is able to take a step away from capitalism and that daily grind to give back to the community, to uplift the youth. And so there's a lot of impact stories that we can share. And you can kind of see it in here within the article. We have a filmmaker who's really focused on telling the story of folks living in SROs. And she mentions that most filmmakers, there's this need to make these big sort of, what's going to be, the big cash cow, what's going to be, the big seller. And she's not interested in that. She's interested in telling real stories about real people. She's interested in social justice and using filmmaking as her medium to do that. And that's what this money is is allowing her to do. So this is just a couple of things. I see my colleague Isa is tuning in to this conversation as well. So she's dropped off some good resources. And you can see that, we're not unique at all by any means. There's folks, all over the world that are doing programs like this. And, I think for us in San Francisco, these types of things are really important because, the gentrification is real, the displacement is real, artists, folks of color, queer communities are getting pushed out by the daily. And so for us at YBCA, it was really important to center these communities and to make sure that not only were they centered, but they had a say in where the money goes, who the artists are that are going to be taking part. And just like I said, we're really about trying to decenter ourselves from this space and allow the community to speak and advocate for themselves, because that's where the strength is. It's within the community. And that's what we really want to make clear with this program. So when you got some time, please read the article. Ruffin, I don't know if you have anything else you'd like to add about this program, but that's just a little bit about.
No, thank you, Christian. That's dope.
Yeah, so this is a little bit about the program. Thank you all. Feel free to, you can reach out. We have a couple different websites up. So tune in, check us out.
Thanks, Christian. We recognize that this is so much info. It's such a big economic framework. And we wanted to just take some space with Marina to lead us maybe through a pause.
Cool. Thanks, Nati. Yeah, that's a lot of info to take in. If folks want to just take a minute, you can stand up if you want to, stay seated. It's up to you. Feel free to just close your eyes. Again, coming back to our breath, taking a full breath into your belly. On your exhale, exhaling through your mouth with a sound. Feel free to sigh. Big breath in, exhale. Good. Take your hands and clap them together. Create some heat. Press your palms into your eyes gently and kind of make little circles. Good. Coming out, open your eyes, just kind of brushing your head with your hands. Go ahead and pat with your palm down your arm, down the other side, down the front of your body, up the back. You can pause at your lower back. Then go ahead and shake your arms, do some good twists, whatever little movements you feel like you need to kind of just let that information come in, go through you, do what it needs to. Good. Just ending with one more big breath in and exhaling. Good. Well, I will pass it to Ruffin now.
Hey, everybody. Oh, let me turn my video back on. I needed that stretch. I was definitely like sitting for that long was stressing me out. So thank you for that. Encouraged me to stand up, move around a little bit. So I want to just lead us in a maybe 10 minutes of a visioning session here. This session's called First 5 Minutes. I've done it a couple of different times, but what it really allows us to do is sort of to take a more generative stance and really step into actual things that could happen to prepare for them. The research shows that the more you put yourself in actual situations and scenarios, the better prepared that you are when they actually happen to act. And so this particular scenario is about housing and how we can possibly build, how we can use solidarity economy principles to combat housing development, injustice, and gentrification. So here's the prompt, and I believe we're going to hop into some breakout rooms, right, for folks to discuss amongst themselves. So the goal, I'll read the scenario, and then there are 5 questions. The scenario is, you just got a notice on your door from your landlord that the rent control building you've been living in for the last 8 years is about to be sold to a developer. The developer is going to demolish the building and turn the building into luxury housing units, with 20% of those units being affordable housing. Only 20% being affordable housing. So the questions: how do you feel? Who do you call? What resources do you have? Because we definitely always have resources in our community. What resources do you seek out to both resist this development, and not just resist it, but also build solutions? And then what solidarity economic institutional forms could you begin to look to as long-term solutions to the housing crisis in your community? So I believe we're going to open up a couple of breakout rooms. Folks can jump in, sort of discuss this. We'll take about, we'll have like 8 minutes on the clock, and then we'll come back for a quick debrief.
Hi, folks. This is your tech support here. Just wants to let you know that we have some breakout rooms opened. You'll have to assign yourself a room. We're encouraged to put 3 to 4 people per room. And if you don't want to participate, you can select the quiet room. So you can just go ahead and select join for the room that you want to join. If you have any questions, you can just send me a chat. Thanks.
You don't mind if I move some folks into rows with each other? Looks like we have a couple of singles. Oh, looks like they're figuring it out. Okay.
Oh, wow, that was so quick. Was I supposed to come back?
Yeah,
We were all
welcome
supposed to come back? Oh, okay.
yeah, welcome back.
We didn't even get to the how you feel.
Oh,
We're
no.
so in the how you feel about it.
Yeah, I
But
wanted
I'm
to be
sure we'll
respectful
hear
because
from
I know
everybody.
I know that we'd planned for a 10-minute debrief at
Okay,
the
cool.
end, so I wanted to get folks back.
Cool.
But
Well,
before
group
we get
process.
started, because I know there are at least 2 basketball fans in this meeting, Kevin Durant requested a trade from the Nets, which is big news. Anyway, for those of you who aren't, Google it. It's really big news. Okay, cool. So yeah, there's never enough time in breakout rooms, but hopefully y'all can keep pondering those questions and use this sort of in various things. I keep thinking about how all of our communities are, dealing with climate justice. We've got so many things to work on: climate justice, reproductive justice, healthcare, education, and you can sort of apply these. You can apply these strategies in a whole bunch of ways just to prepare us all for being able to combat the injustice that we're facing every day. In terms of a share out, I'd just love for folks, if you feel like you or one of your colleagues in the breakout rooms had a particularly interesting solution or an interesting approach, I'd love to hear it. If it just put you in a different headspace, I'd love to hear about it in the chat. But I think I'm going to turn this back over to Nati to close us out, right? Or is it Marina?
Oh, wow, because we're closing at 3:30.
Yeah, it's
I would
like,
love to hear from people though, of, like what came
yeah, I
up.
would too. I would too. I just want to
Let's
be
just
respectful of
do
our
three
time.
minutes. Let's just do 3 minutes because I think we can cut the last part. Something I heard in my group is just this gap between the long stated goals of what we're fighting for and the actual reality, which this scenario kind of brings up. And that's a real thing that I know people have doubts when they hear these kind of long-term visionary solutions that is solidarity economy, but it's not matching the reality of their actual situation. To which I just asked the person, like, where does this person live? And are there these examples of community land trust, these hyper local examples? I won't say that in every town these things exist, but I think doing a local lay of your landscape of what are the different opportunities, especially when it comes to housing for more affordable permanent housing. But I do want to acknowledge that, yes, this stuff can sound dreamy, but I hope that my presentation got through that it is grounded in reality and real practices and real examples. And I hear you that it's hard. I see Kobena has his hands up.
So I think as we're talking, I actually had a question about bridging that gap. Because I've heard of different stories of places like Denmark, where one of my friends who lives there was talking about housing cooperatives where because it's community owned, there's a certain way that you have access to housing, but it can also be a bit difficult to get into because it's so discriminatory against, people taking advantage of the system. And I live in a place where I'm not even sure who I would contact to think about creating any kind of housing autonomy or space autonomy between community members, because everything is so aggressively privately owned or moving in that direction. And it's interesting to think about where that bridge can be. Is it in trying to work through governance? What if the government doesn't feel like it's interested in these kinds of regenerative solutions?
Yeah, Kamena, I think your last point is really salient for me right now around government, and I would say government foundations, large institutions. Like, I would sort of lump that all in, not being interested in finding solutions and not being interested in actually cooperativism or mutualism or solidarity economies. And one thing I've really been holding close is sometimes good people don't want to act like they're operating in a vacuum, as opposed to acting like they're actual oppositional forces sort of working against us. And I think key to any sort of strategy is acknowledging that, like, perhaps the place that you're in is actually not hospitable to overthrowing capitalism, and to really thinking about new ways. There's actually there's a benefit. They're finding a benefit and sort of keeping traditional models alive. To your other point around like international solutions, I was in Copenhagen a couple of months ago. And I just keep thinking about how demographics, like when you have governments in countries that are where people are so similar, have similar cultural understandings, they're so much more willing to work together than we are here in the States. I'll say, like, I look everywhere and I just see racism as a blocker and class as a blocker and language as a blocker. And I keep thinking, like, how do we build movements that actually see our differences as a benefit, as opposed to what our government sees, which is we all need to assimilate and suck it up and get a job and sort of kowtow to the man. So I don't know if that was helpful, but I think your question really raised a couple of different points for me.
Awesome. Would anyone else like to report back really briefly, a minute or two, before we wrap up? And I just really was happy to be in my breakout room. I hope you enjoyed meeting some new folks, even if we didn't get to, debrief collectively. I can't see if any hands are raised. You can come off mute if you'd like to share anything. Cool. Well, we have 4 minutes left. I am going to ask for one more bit of participation before we go. So get your fingers ready. But before we do that, just to ground folks in the presentation earlier, that you already know how to practice mutual aid in this oppressive economy. And solidarity economy is just mutual aid practices institutionalized. They are not a silver bullet, nor are they to be microwaved. This is generations long work, which kind of came up in this visioning of that it takes time for these changes to occur. And lucky for us, there are organizations in this country that are building this movement. So please check out New Economy Coalition. We're on Instagram. We're trying to build a post-capitalist shit posting Instagram account. No, just kidding. We highlight tons of stories from our membership. For example, Cooperation New Orleans, which just finished a Black cooperative academy down in New Orleans. And we try to shine a light on all these examples happening around the country to inspire you, because this is a long haul. And then finally, that we stand on the shoulder of many in this work. And when people ask me, like, this isn't realistic, I have doubts, I just go back to, the names that I named earlier, whose shoulders we stand on. We have a duty to continue this work, in my opinion. And so please plug in with us. YBCA, Yerba Buena Cultural Center in San Francisco, New Economy Coalition, Art.coop. If you're an artist and you're excited about this, like, there's sign up to our newsletter, join us on Instagram. Like, we're trying to find each other. Like, I see some people here today here who learned about it from our Instagram. So hi, welcome. We're finding each other. Welcome to the Artist Revolution. We're here to support you, and please contact us. Find us on social media. And so lastly, we got 2 minutes, and I really would like to know, what's something you are taking away with you from this short introduction on solidarity, economy, and arts. And that can be doubts. I've done this and people have been doubtful, and I've done this and people have been really hopeful. So, either side of the spectrum, I would love to hear what you have taken from this in the chat. And then what's something you'll do next? What's something you'll do next? Something I'll do next is tweet how amazing Ruffin was and put the hashtag AMC 2022. So that people know that this panel happened. That's a form of solidarity economy, caring. Kara is going to spread the word and the stories of this movement with my community. Yes, I love it. And if you feel like talking, come off mute. Like, we got a minute. If you're inappropriate, we'll just cut the mic. No, just kidding. What's something you'll do? Sharing all these resources for sure. Yes. Thank you. Thanks, Aliana. What's something you're going to do, Christian? Sam said, I love the message of solidarity economy already being present in the everyday. What a beautiful reframing and imagining for the future. Yes, Sam. Aisa, warmth and gratitude, taking away nourishment in collective action and committing to continued growth. Yes.
I don't know.
Eileen,
I'm kind of feeling the freestyle rap. I think I'm going to make my own freestyle on solidarity economies, Nazi. I think you've inspired me. Christian, can you help me out?
I got you. I'll ghostwrite it for you, Ruffin.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
well, it's so funny that you say that. I'm going to read more people's things, but we do have a song based on the Creative Wildfire project.
Oh, let's go.
That an artist took the money that was offered as a fellow, and they made an album, and they made a song called Solidarity Economy. So if you stick around, I'll play that for you. Christian is going to share resources and push folks to reimagine community economies. Tonight, I'm going to yell at Harvard University because they've bought up all the land in the neighborhood and they're trying to develop all nasty. Sam, holler at me. There's things going on in Boston. There's community land trust things. If you want to find other fellow folks doing this work in Boston, like connect with me, please. There's stuff going on in Boston. Find your people wherever you are, right? Cool. Sachi, I want to support more community land trust. Yes. Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much, y'all, for joining us and this really introductory session on solidarity economy and what arts has to do with that. I'm going to wrap up and play the solidarity economy song. While you can come off the mic, you can say, what's up? Thank you. Energy in the chat. I love it all. Here we go. Like someone really made a song about solidarity economy. Yes, we need more of this. Okay, I know this is what is going on. iTunes doesn't want us. They don't want the world to know. Oh man, I just totally sold this and it's not working. Oh, I'm sorry, y'all. I don't know why it's not working. Well, there's a song on Apple. You can check it out. And another artist called Coco Pela in the Bay Area did another song about just transition. So that's how we'll close it out. Thank you so much, everybody. Enjoy your Allied Media Conference.
I ain't native, but I'm born and raised, so I bow down to the first people on their land up in the powwow. I won't stand for genocide. Speak my mind like Coretta Scott in 86. Shout out to Ketanji Jackson, who they weren't with. I'm with her. She got me hyped, dude. I'ma have to exercise my civil rights too. Oh, yeah. Fuck the KKK and anybody who wanna tell me what I should do with my body. Haiti counts up in this verse. Hi body, and I'ma cry and scream if I want, cause it's my body. They wanna know if there's some real nigga shit. The type of shit they hang and shoot and kill niggas with. The type of shit they lock in cages, steal niggas with. No, this the type of spit that elevate and heal Negroes. Bring us from 3/5 to one whole. One mic, one life, one goal. Liberation around the world, let's go. Everybody working class, young to old, the rich to poor.
All right.
Somehow got lost along the way. There's still a chance for us to change the greed, the arrogance, the pain. I hope you'll try to remember. Somehow got lost along the way. There's still a chance for us to change the war, the violence, the slain. I know that you can remember. We must be smart to survive. Being kept just alive enough to liven up and pick.
All right, who wants to stay and do a dance party? I'll get to the rest of the AMC. I got tracks. I got tracks on tracks on tracks.
Thanks,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
That was fun. Good to see you, Eileen. Let's connect because
Yes.
I see you on too many calls now that we don't just talk.
Awesome.
And I'm leaving NEC today, actually, so I have a lot more time now.
Okay.
So we can connect. Good to see you. Thanks for coming.
Good to see you. Thank you, everyone.
All right. Well, thank you, Christian. Thanks, Ruffin. Ruffin left. All right.
Thanks, Nati. Appreciate
It was
you.
so good to meet you. Yo.
Yeah, likewise. Let's stay connected.
Please, what's your email? Oh wait, I
And
have it. I have it in my.
You got it. Yeah,
work notes.
we're around. So
Let me
let's-
write you on my personal. I'll write you on my personal.
for sure. That sounds good.
And I have a lot of history in the Bay. I used to work with Los Racas.
Oh wow,
um,
okay.
Back in the day, which is kind of how I learned how fucked up the music economy is.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's what's up.
You know, basically J Balvin got to be big and, you know,
I wonder
stealing
why. I
off the
wonder
backs
why.
of Black Latinos like Los Vacas. So
Mm-hmm.
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Take care, y'all.
All right.
That was lovely.
That was fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Marina, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Marina. I feel so good now. I can tell. Do my movements. I'm limber now for the rest of the day.
I love it.
Sure.
All
All
right.
right, y'all.
Marina, do you want to stay on real quick?
Can we stay in here?
Yeah. Kara, do you mind?
No, it's not a problem at all. Actually, I wanted to ask a question about the recording. I'm not sure where it goes to. I think it goes to an AMC account. So let me know if you wanted me to have it sent to someone in particular.
Oh yeah. Here, I can I send you my email?
Sure.
Okay. You can just email it. That's like the art.coop email thing.
Okay.
Can we get emails to who registered?
I think, let me see. I go to the attendees page. I think it's also that Excel events side of things. And there's
Okay.
definitely a list there, but I'm not sure, like, I could try to go through each person and see what their contact information is, but I don't know if it's visible.
Okay, that's
So
fine.
I got emails from people who wanted resources. So I was
Okay, cool.
it's a small list, but
okay, I'll ask them though. I'll ask the AMC folks if there's a way to get the registrants. Yeah. Okay.
Cool.
Okay.
Marina, what'd you think?
that was awesome. I love presenting with you. Should we stop recording?
Yeah.